The massive alien ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Inside the ship, Admiral Kethmore stood in front of a large screen that showed a small blue planet. His 6 arms moved quickly over the control panel as he checked the data one more time. "Are you sure this is correct?" Kethmore asked his officer. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Yexthul nodded his large head. "Yes, Admiral. The planet is called Earth. The creatures there call themselves humans. They have been quiet for 5,000 years. Kethmore looked at the data again. It made no sense. 5,000 years ago, these humans had just learned to travel between planets. They had simple ships and basic weapons. Then suddenly, nothing. No messages, no new ships, no expansion to other worlds. Maybe they all died, suggested another officer from across the room. "No," Yexthul said, pointing at his screen. "We can see lights on their planet, cities, movement. They are still there. They just stopped." Kethmore felt confused and a little angry. For 300 years, he had been conquering worlds and building the Great Vexhai Confederation. 12 different alien species now followed his commands. He had defeated armies and destroyed fleets. But these humans, they just sat on their one planet and did nothing. "It does not matter," Kethmore decided. "They are in our space now. Send them the message." Deep under the surface of Earth, in a city called New Sol, Commander Tejo sat at his desk drinking tea. The underground city was huge, with tall buildings and bright lights that made it feel like daytime even though they were far below ground. Gardens grew between the buildings and streams of clean water flowed down the walls. Tejo was a calm man with kind eyes. He had been waiting for something to happen for a long time. When the communication alarm started beeping, he smiled and put down his teacup. "Boram," he called to a young woman working at a nearby computer. "We have visitors." Boram looked up from her screen. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "The signal is coming from outside our solar system, Commander. It's... Oh my," she started to laugh. "They're trying to speak to us in Old Galactic Standard. Can you understand it?" Tejo asked. "Of course," Boram said, still smiling. "It's like someone trying to speak to us in baby talk." Wu Jin, a quiet man with gentle hands, looked up from his workstation. "Should I record this, Commander?" "Yes," Tejo said. "I think everyone will want to see this." The message appeared on the main screen. It was a large alien with too many arms speaking in a language that sounded angry. Boram translated as the alien spoke. "He says his name is Admiral Kethmore of the Vexhai Confederation," Boram explained. "He claims this entire area of space belongs to them. He wants us to surrender immediately." "What happens if we don't surrender?" Tejo asked, though he was still smiling. Boram listened to more of the message. "He says they will destroy us. They want tribute, slaves, complete obedience. We have 72 hours to answer." Wu Jin shook his head. 72 hours? That's barely enough time to make a good decision about what to eat for dinner. Dr. Hyojin walked into the room carrying a tablet. She was the smartest person Tejo knew, and she studied alien life forms. Her face showed the same amused expression as everyone else. "I heard the message," Hyojin said. "These Vexhai are interesting. They've put together 12 different species under one leader. Very impressive for their level of development." "Their level of development?" Tejo asked. Hyojin showed them her tablet. It had pictures of alien ships and weapons. "They're using fusion drives and plasma weapons. Very nice work for a Type 1 civilization." Boram giggled. "Type 1, really?" "Really," Hyojin confirmed. "They've learned to use all the energy on their home planets and they can travel between stars. It's quite an achievement." Tejo pressed a button on his desk. "Please connect me to President Doyun." A few minutes later, the president's face appeared on the screen. Doyun was an older man with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He looked like someone's grandfather, which made people trust him. "Hello, Tejo," Doyun said. "I assume this is about our new friends?" "Yes, sir. They want us to surrender in 72 hours. Doyun nodded slowly. "I see, and what do you think we should tell them?" "I was thinking we could be polite," Tejo said. "Maybe thank them for their offer, but explain that we're not interested." "That sounds reasonable," Doyun agreed. "Should we tell them why we're not interested?" Hyojin spoke up. "Mr. President, I don't think they would understand yet. They seem to think we're still the same humans from 5,000 years ago." "Ah," Doyun said, nodding. "Well, we don't want to be rude. Let's keep our answer simple." Within an hour, the entire government had gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. Defense Minister So Young stood at the front of the room. explaining the situation to hundreds of officials. Her voice was calm and professional, but Taeho could see that she was trying not to smile. The Alien Confederation has 50,000 ships, So Young said. Their leader believes we are a primitive species that will be easy to conquer. Someone in the back of the room started laughing. Then another person joined in. Soon the entire hall was filled with the sound of gentle laughter. Should we show them what we've been doing for the last 5,000 years? Asked one official. Not yet, Do-Yun said, standing up. Let's give them a chance to learn. Maybe they'll surprise us. What if they attack? So Young asked. Then we'll teach them, Do-Yun said simply. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Taeho returned to his office and sat down at his computer. He thought for a moment about what to say. The message needed to be polite but clear. Finally, he began to type. Dear Admiral Kethmore and the HFY Confederation, he wrote. Thank you for your message. We appreciate your offer, but we must politely decline. We are quite happy with our current situation and have no desire to join your confederation or pay tribute. We hope you understand. Thanks, but we're good. Sincerely, the people of Earth. Taeho read the message twice, then sent it. Boram looked over at him. Do you think they'll understand? Probably not, Taeho said, picking up his teacup again. But that's okay. Everyone learns at their own pace. Far away in space, Admiral Kethmore received the message. He read it 3 times, then called for his officers. They said no, he told them, his voice full of disbelief. No? Yexthul asked. Just no? They thanked us, Kethmore said slowly. They thanked us for our offer and said they're good. The bridge fell silent. In 300 years of conquest, no one had ever just said no. What do we do now? An officer asked. Kethmore stared at the small blue planet on his screen. We show them what happens to people who say no to the HFY Confederation. Admiral Kethmore stood in front of his war council, his 6 arms moving with anger. The human response had made him look foolish in front of his officers. No species had ever simply said no to the great HFY Confederation. They don't understand their situation, Yexthul said, trying to help his admiral feel better. These humans have been alone for 5,000 years. They probably forgot that other species exist. Then we will remind them, Kethmore decided. Order the fleet to the edge of their solar system. We will show them what our weapons can do. The alien fleet moved through space like a swarm of angry insects, 50,000 ships of different shapes and sizes, each one carrying weapons that could destroy cities. They had conquered hundreds of worlds with these ships. Target? Asked the weapons officer. Kethmore looked at the scan of the human solar system. 9 planets circled their yellow star. The small one at the edge was called Pluto. It was tiny and far from Earth, but the humans would still be able to see what happened to it. The 9th planet, Kethmore ordered. Use the planet killer. Make sure the humans can see the flash. On Earth, President Do-Yun stood in the observation room of the Global Defense Center. The room had a huge window that looked up at the surface world above them. Stars twinkled in the dark sky, peaceful and quiet. Taeho joined him at the window. The alien fleet has reached the edge of our solar system, he reported. They're charging some kind of large weapon. What are they targeting? Do-Yun asked. Pluto, Taeho said. Do-Yun nodded slowly. That's actually quite thoughtful of them. Pluto was always hard to see anyway. Hae-Jin walked over with her tablet. I'm reading their weapon signature now. It's a focused antimatter beam, very impressive for their technology level. Will it hurt anyone? Do-Yun asked. No, Hae-Jin said. Pluto is empty. Well, mostly empty. Boram looked up from her computer station. Sir, should I activate the collection system? Yes, please, Do-Yun said. No point in wasting good energy. Wu Jin's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Collection system is ready. All sensors are recording. Far away at the edge of the solar system, the alien weapon fired. A beam of pure energy shot across space toward Pluto. The small planet exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from Earth even during the day. In the observation room, everyone watched quietly as Pluto disappeared. Beautiful, Hae-Jin said softly. The energy release was perfectly controlled. How much energy did they give us? Do-Yun asked. Wu Jin checked his readings. Enough to power our mining operations in the Centauri system for about 6 months. Excellent, Do-Yun said. That was very generous of them. Taeho received a message on his communicator. Sir, Admiral Kethmore is trying to contact us again. Put him on the main screen, Do-Yun said. The alien admiral appeared on the screen. He looked very proud of himself. Behind him, Tejo could see dozens of alien officers watching. Humans of Earth, Kethmore said in his rough voice. You have seen what our weapons can do. Your 9th planet is gone. We can do the same to your world. Will you surrender now? Duyun stepped forward with a gentle smile. Admiral Kethmore, thank you for the demonstration. That was quite impressive. Kethmore looked confused. You thank us? Of course, Duyun said. The energy from your weapon was very useful. Our collection systems worked perfectly. Collection systems? Kethmore asked. Heejin joined Duyun at the screen. Oh yes, we've been collecting energy from stellar events for centuries. When you destroyed Pluto, we captured and stored all that energy. It will help power our deep space mining operations. The alien bridge fell silent. Kethmore looked at his weapons officer, who was staring at his instruments with wide eyes. Admiral, the weapons officer said quietly. They're right. The energy didn't dissipate into space. It was redirected somehow. Redirected? Kethmore asked. The explosion was contained in some kind of field, the officer explained. The energy was collected and transmitted somewhere else. I don't understand how they did it. Tejo smiled at the screen. We've learned to be very efficient with energy. Thank you for the donation. Our mining crews in Alpha Centauri appreciate it. Alpha Centauri? Yexthal asked. But that's 4 light years away. 4.37 light years, Boram corrected helpfully. Our mining operations there have been running for about 3,000 years. Kethmore felt like his world was spinning. You have operations in other star systems? Several systems, actually, Heejin said. We've been very busy during our quiet period. But our scans show no ships, no signals, Kethmore protested. That's because you're looking for the wrong things, Hyojin explained patiently. We stopped using radio signals about 4,000 years ago. And our ships don't travel through normal space anymore. Then how do you travel? Kethmore asked. Woojin looked up from his station. We fold space. It's much faster and doesn't leave energy trails that primitive sensors can detect. The word primitive hit Kethmore like a slap. His confederation had the most advanced technology in this region of space. How could these humans call them primitive? Show us, Kethmore demanded. Show you what? Duyun asked. Show us your technology. Prove that you have ships in other systems. Duyun looked at Hyojin, who shrugged. It's not really a secret, she said. Woojin pressed a few buttons on his control panel. Mining Station 7, this is Earth Control. Please acknowledge. The response came immediately. A human voice spoke from somewhere impossibly far away. Earth Control, this is Mining Station 7 in the Alpha Centauri system. We just received an energy boost from home. Thank you. Our pleasure, Woojin said. How are the new fusion cores working? Perfectly. We've finished converting the 2nd planet and started work on the gas giant. Everything is on schedule. Kethmore stared at the screen. You're terraforming planets in Alpha Centauri? We prefer the term stellar engineering, Heejin said. Terraforming is just changing the surface of a planet. We rebuild entire systems from the inside out. That's impossible, Yexthal said. The energy requirements alone. That's why we collect energy from events like your weapon test, Boram explained. Every little bit helps. So Young walked into the observation room carrying a datapad. Mr. President, we've finished analyzing their fleet composition. Should I share the results? If Admiral Kethmore is interested, Do-Yun said. Kethmore nodded quickly. He needed to understand what he was dealing with, so Young looked at her pad. 50,000 ships, 12 different designs representing different species in your confederation. Most effective weapon range, about 50,000 kilometers. Fastest speed, 0.04 times the speed of light. Energy output, approximately 10 to the 16th watts. That sounds about right, Kethmore said, though he wondered how humans had such accurate information about his fleet. It's quite good for a Type 1 civilization, So Young continued. You should be proud of your achievement, Type 1, Kethmore asked. He had heard this term before, Yejin explained. A Type 1 civilization can use all the energy available on their home planet. Type 2 can use all the energy from their star. Type 3 can use the energy from an entire galaxy. What type are humans? Kethmore asked, though he was starting to fear the answer. We reached Type 2 about 3,000 years ago, Hyojin said casually. We're working on Type 3, but there's no hurry. The alien bridge was completely silent now. A Type 2 civilization could destroy Kethmore's entire confederation without effort. Why didn't you tell us this before? Kethmore asked. You didn't ask, Doyun said simply. You just demanded that we surrender. What do you want from us? Kethmore asked quietly. Nothing, Doyun said with a kind smile. We just want to be good neighbors. Maybe you could stop threatening the other species in this region. Some of them are our friends. Teho typed another message and sent it to the alien fleet. It was short and simple. Thank you for the energy donation. Our mining operations appreciate the efficiency boost. Have a nice day. Admiral Kethmore stared at the message for a long time. His great confederation, his powerful fleet, his mighty weapons. None of it mattered. These humans had been playing a completely different game for 5,000 years. What do we do now? Yexthul asked quietly. Kethmore looked at the small blue planet on his screen. We learn, he said. Admiral Kethmore sat alone in his command room, staring at reports that made no sense. His intelligence officers had worked for days, checking and rechecking their data about the humans. The numbers didn't add up, sir. Yexthul knocked on the door. The Intelligence Council is ready to meet. Kethmore followed his officer to the meeting room. Around the large table sat representatives from all 12 species in the Confederation. Each one looked confused and worried. Mordak, the chief intelligence officer, stood up when Kethmore entered. His thin body shook with nervousness. Admiral, we have reviewed all data about the human species. 5,000 years ago, they were exactly what our files said. Simple space travel, basic weapons, one planet. And then? Kethmore asked. Nothing, sir. Complete radio silence. No expansion signals, no new construction, no military movements. They simply vanished from our sensors. But they didn't actually vanish, Kethmore said. They're still there. Yes, sir. They just became invisible to our technology. Another officer spoke up. How is that possible? How does an entire civilization disappear for 5,000 years? Before anyone could answer, something strange happened. The air in the room began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then a human woman appeared, standing at the head of the table as if she had always been there. The alien officers jumped back in fear, reaching for their weapons. But the woman raised her hand and smiled gently. Please don't be afraid, she said in perfect galactic standard. My name is Dr. Hai-Jin. I'm here to answer your questions. Kethmore stared at her. How did you get aboard my ship? I asked permission and your computer system let me in, Hai-Jin said. I hope that's okay. I thought it would be easier to explain things in person. Our computer system? Mordak asked weakly. Our most secure systems? Your security is quite good for its level, Hai-Jin said kindly. But we've been studying your technology for a while. May I sit down? Kethmore nodded, still shocked. The human woman took a seat at the table as if this was a normal business meeting. You want to know what humanity has been doing for 5,000 years? Hai-Jin said. That's a fair question. The simple answer is, we grew up. She touched something on her wrist and the room filled with floating images. Star charts appeared in the air, showing the local region of space. The aliens recognized their own territory, but there were new markings everywhere. This is what we call the local neighborhood, Hai-Jin explained. Your confederation controls about 12 star systems here. She pointed to a small cluster of stars. That's very impressive work. And humans? Kethmore asked. Hai-Jin smiled and more star systems lit up on the chart. Dozens of them scattered throughout the region. We have active operations in 47 systems. But we try to be quiet neighbors. 47 systems? Yexthul whispered. But we've seen no signs of expansion. Because we don't expand the way you do, Hai-Jin said. You build ships and fly to new planets. We reshape space itself to connect our systems. To demonstrate, she showed them a new image. It looked like space was folded with two distant points touching each other. Space folding, she explained. We can travel instantly between any 2 points, no matter how far apart they are. Much more efficient than flying ships through normal space. Mordak leaned forward. But the energy requirements for such technology are quite large, Hai-Jin agreed. That's why we spent 2,000 years learning to harvest energy from stars. Another image appeared, showing a star with strange structures around it. We built these collectors around most of the stars in our territory. Each one gives us more energy than your entire confederation uses in a year. The room fell silent. The aliens were beginning to understand just how far ahead humans really were. What about other species? Asked an officer from the Zephyrian race. Are there others like you? Oh yes, Hyejin said cheerfully. We share our local space with 17 other species. Most of them have been our neighbors for thousands of years. 17? Kethmore felt dizzy. Where are they? Why haven't we detected them? Because they learned to be quiet too, Hyejin explained. When you're sharing space with others, it's polite not to make too much noise. She showed them another image. This one displayed a complex network of trade routes and communication lines connecting dozens of species across hundreds of star systems. This is our actual neighborhood, Hyejin said. It's much bigger than what your maps show. Your confederation is just one small part of it. Are you saying we're surrounded? Kethmore asked. Not surrounded, Hyejin corrected gently. You're part of the community. You always have been. We just haven't been formally introduced yet. Suddenly, the meeting room door opened. President Do-yoon walked in, followed by Tae-ho. They moved casually, as if walking through space between ships was perfectly normal. I hope we're not interrupting, Do-yoon said politely. Dr. Hyejin, how is the presentation going? Very well, sir. I was just explaining our neighborhood structure. Do-yoon nodded and took a seat next to Hyejin. Tae-ho remained standing, but his relaxed posture showed he felt no threat from the alien officers. Admiral Kethmore, Do-yoon said, I understand you have some concerns about our response to your Confederation's demands. Yes, Kethmore managed to say. We declared war on you. So we noticed, Do-yoon said with a gentle smile. That was quite bold of you. You're not angry? Should we be? You didn't know who we were. You made a reasonable assumption based on the information you had. Tae-ho spoke up. From your perspective, you found an empty star system with what looked like a primitive species. In your place, we might have done the same thing. But you wouldn't have, Mordak said quietly. You would have investigated first. Well, yes, Hyejin admitted. We are quite curious by nature. We've been studying your confederation for about 500 years. 500 years? Kethmore asked. We noticed when you started forming alliances between different species, Tae-ho explained. It was very interesting to watch. 12 different races learning to work together, despite major biological and cultural differences. Quite impressive. You've been watching us like animals in a zoo, Yexthul said, sounding hurt. More like students in a school, Do-yoon corrected. We wanted to see if you could learn to cooperate without outside help. And you did. Your confederation is a remarkable achievement, but we're still primitive compared to you, Kethmore said. Not primitive, Hyejin said firmly. Young, there's a big difference. Every civilization goes through the same stages of growth. You're doing very well for your age. Do-yoon leaned forward. Admiral, may I ask you something? Of course. Why did you form this confederation? What brought 12 different species together? Kethmore thought for a moment. Resources. The region was becoming crowded. Everyone needed more space, more energy, more materials. We were starting to fight over everything. So you chose cooperation over war, Tae-ho said. That shows wisdom. But the cooperation is fragile, Kethmore admitted. We argue constantly. Some species want more territory, others want better trade deals. It's hard to keep everyone happy. Leadership is always difficult, Do-yoon agreed, especially when you're trying to balance the needs of very different groups. Hyejin touched her wrist device again. New images appeared, showing detailed scans of the Confederation's territory. Would you like to know what we see when we look at your region? She asked. The images showed resource maps, energy flows, and population distributions. But they also showed something else. Stress points where different species were competing for the same things. Your confederation is stable for now, Hyejin explained. But these pressure points will cause problems in the next 50 to 100 years. The Vaxarian worlds need more rare metals. The Zephyrian colonies are running low on water. The Krell homeworld is using too much energy. You know all of this? Mordak asked. We've been watching, remember? Tae-ho said. We could see the problems developing. Why didn't you help us? Kethmore asked. Because you didn't ask, Do-yoon said simply, and because we wanted to see if you could solve the problems yourselves first. Could we? Kethmore asked. Maybe, Hyejin said, but it would have been very difficult. There's not enough easily accessible resources in your region to support all 12 species at their current growth rates. Kethmore felt a cold weight in his stomach, so we would have eventually fought each other anyway. Probably, Do-yoon admitted. Unless you found a better solution. Is there a better solution? Kethmore asked. Hyejin smiled. There's always a better solution. The question is whether you're ready to hear it. We're ready, Kethmore said quickly. The solution isn't to fight over limited resources, Taeho explained. The solution is to make resources unlimited. How? Yexthul asked. Hyejin showed them one final image. It was a small device no bigger than a human hand. This is a matter converter, she said. It can transform any basic elements into any other elements you need. Asteroid rock into rare metals, water into complex hydrocarbons, simple gases into whatever your people need to survive. That's impossible, Mordak whispered. Not impossible, Hyejin corrected. Just advanced. We've been using these devices for about 3,000 years. You could solve all our resource problems, Kethmore realized. We could teach you to solve them yourselves, Doyun corrected. If you're interested in... 3 days later, the great hall of Admiral Kethmore's flagship was filled with angry voices. Representatives from all 12 species of the Confederation sat around a massive table, arguing about what to do next. We should attack immediately, declared General Vextal of the warrior Krell species. His red skin was darker than usual, showing his anger. These humans have made us look like fools. Attack a Type 2 civilization? Asked Ambassador Thinora of the peaceful Zephyrians. Her blue feathers ruffled with worry. That would be suicide. Maybe they're lying, suggested Commander Braktos of the Vaxarian Trade Union. Maybe they want us to think they're more advanced than they really are. Admiral Kethmore sat at the head of the table, listening to the arguments. He felt old and tired. In 3 days, everything he thought he knew about the universe had changed. The humans are already here, he said quietly, and the room fell silent. What do you mean? General Vextal asked. Before Kethmore could answer, the air near the table began to shimmer. Dr. Hyejin appeared, but this time she wasn't alone. 2 other humans materialized beside her. Good morning, everyone, Hyejin said pleasantly. I hope we're not interrupting. The alien representatives reached for their weapons, but Kethmore raised a hand to stop them. Dr. Hyejin, these are Minho and Yunju, I assume? That's right, said the man called Minho. He was tall and calm with kind eyes. I'm a cultural attaché. I study how different species communicate and work together. The woman called Yunju was smaller but moved like a soldier. She looked around the room with professional interest. And I'm a military observer. Though I have to say your weapon systems are quite charming. Charming, General Vextal growled. Well designed for their purpose, Yunju explained. Simple, efficient, easy to maintain. Very practical for a developing civilization. General Vextal's face grew even redder. Developing civilization? Please, Minho said gently. There's no shame in being young. Every species goes through the same stages. You've actually progressed faster than most. Hyejin took a seat at the table. We came to offer our help with your current problems. What problems? Ambassador Thinara asked. The resource disputes that brought your confederation together in the first place, Hyejin said. She activated her wrist device and images appeared in the air above the table. The Krell need more energy for their expanding population. The Vaxarians need rare metals for their manufacturing. The Zephyrians need water for their new colonies. How do you know all this? Commander Braktos demanded. Minho smiled. We've been learning your languages and studying your cultures for centuries. It's what we do when we meet new neighbors. Learning our languages? Ambassador Thinara asked. But some of our languages have never been translated. They have now, Minho said. He began speaking in perfect Zephyrian, his voice making the musical sounds that Thinara's species used for communication. Then he switched to the clicking language of the Vaxarians, then to the growling words of the Krell. Around the table, representatives from each species stared in shock as Minho addressed them in their native tongues. Not just speaking the words, but using the proper cultural expressions and showing respect for their customs. How long did it take you to learn all our languages? Thinara asked. About 6 hours, Minho said modestly, though I'm still working on some of the more complex cultural meanings. 6 hours? Mordak whispered. We have some advantages, Hyejin explained. Our brains work a bit differently than they used to. Yunju had been examining the alien weapons mounted on the walls. These plasma rifles are well made, she said to General Vextal. What's their effective range? 2 kilometers in atmosphere, Vextal said proudly. They can punch through most armor. Very nice, Yunju said. She pulled a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple metal tube no bigger than her finger. This is our current standard defensive tool. That tiny thing? Vextal laughed. What does it do? Yunju pointed the device at an empty space near the wall. She pressed a button and a small black hole appeared floating in the air. It lasted for exactly 1 second, then vanished. The room was completely silent. Contained micro-singularity, Yunju explained casually. Very handy for dealing with large problems. But honestly, we haven't needed to use weapons for combat in about 3,000 years. Why not? Vextal asked in a very small voice. Because we learned to solve problems before they became fights, Minho said. Speaking of which, would you like us to help with your resource issues? You said you could teach us to make unlimited resources, Kethmore said. How? Heejin placed a small device on the table. It was the same matter converter she had shown them before. This device can rearrange atoms to create any element you need. Rock becomes metal, gas becomes water, energy becomes matter. Is it safe? Ambassador Thinara asked. Completely, Heejin assured her. Watch. She picked up a metal cup from the table and placed it near the device. She pressed a few buttons and the cup began to glow. When the light faded, the cup had become a perfect crystal. The metal is now pure diamond, Heejin explained. I could turn it into gold or water or anything else you might need. Commander Braktos leaned forward. What are the limitations? Energy input, Yunju said. The more complex the transformation, the more energy it requires. But we can show you how to harvest energy from your stars to power the devices. All of our stars? Kethamore asked. All the stars in this region, Heejin confirmed. There's more energy available than all 12 of your species could use in a million years. The representatives looked at each other with wonder and fear. Why would you share this technology with us? General Vextel asked suspiciously. Because sharing makes everyone stronger, Minho said. When your species don't have to fight over resources, you can focus on growing and learning. And because happy neighbors are quiet neighbors, Yunju added with a smile. We prefer peace. What would you want from us in return? Commander Braktos asked. Cooperation, Heijin said simply. Stop fighting over resources and start working together to solve problems. Help each other instead of competing with each other. That's all? Thinara asked. That's everything, Minho said. A peaceful confederation that works together is more valuable than any technology. General Vextal shook his head. This is too much. You're offering us everything we need, asking for nothing in return. There must be a catch. The catch is that you have to grow up, Yunju said gently. You have to stop thinking like separate species fighting for survival and start thinking like a community, working toward common goals. Can you do that? Heejin asked. Admiral Kethmore looked around the table at his fellow leaders. The Krell general who wanted to fight, the Zephyrian ambassador who wanted peace, the Vexarian commander who wanted profit, all of them staring at him, waiting for his decision. How long would it take? He asked. To install the technology? A few weeks, Heejin said. To learn to use it properly? A few years. To build a truly cooperative society? That depends on you. We would supervise the transition, Minho added. Make sure everyone gets fair access to the resources they need. And if we refuse? Vextal asked. Then you continue as you are, Yunju said with a shrug. We won't force anything on you. But we also won't let you threaten our other neighbors. Other neighbors? Kethamore asked. The 17 species we mentioned before, Heejin said. Some of them are worried about your Confederation's expansion plans. We have no plans to attack anyone, Thinara said quickly. Not yet, Yunju agreed. But resource pressure has a way of making people desperate. We'd rather solve the problem before it becomes a crisis. Kethmore stood up slowly. Around the table, 11 other leaders watched him. The decision he made now would affect billions of people across dozens of worlds. We accept your offer, he said. We will learn. General Vextal started to object, but Kethmore held up a hand. No, Kethmore said firmly. I have seen what these humans can do. They could have destroyed us without effort, but instead they offer to help us. They ask only that we stop fighting and start growing. If that is the price of unlimited resources and peaceful neighbors, then we will pay it gladly. Heejin smiled. Excellent. When would you like to begin? Immediately, Kethmore said. Then let's start with something simple, Yunju said. She activated the matter converter again. This time she created 12 identical crystals, each one glowing with soft light. One for each of your species, she explained. These contain enough rare elements to supply all your immediate needs. Consider them a sign of good faith. As the alien leaders stared at the crystals, Minho spoke quietly to Kethmore. You made a wise choice, Admiral. Your Confederation has great potential. I hope so, Kethmore said. I hope we can learn to be worthy neighbors. You already are, Heejin said. You just needed someone to show you how. 6 months had passed since the great meeting aboard Admiral Kethmore's flagship. The former admiral now stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space station that floated peacefully in the neutral zone between human and Confederation space. Kethmore no longer wore the military uniform of the Vex High Confederation. Instead, he dressed in the simple clothes of a student. His 6 arms moved slowly as he operated the controls of a matter converter, carefully following the instructions that Haye Jin had given him. Concentrate on the atomic structure, Taeho said patiently. Feel how the elements want to bond together. Kethmore focused on the device. Slowly, a lump of common rock began to change, its gray surface becoming the bright blue of valuable crystals. When the transformation finished, he held up the result with pride. Perfect, Taeho said with a smile. You're learning quickly. It still feels like magic, Kethmore admitted. All advanced technology feels like magic at first, Taeho said. Give it time. Soon it will feel as natural as breathing. Nearby, other former Confederation leaders were learning different skills. Ambassador Thinara worked with Boram to understand space-folding technology. General Vextal studied energy collection systems with Wu Jin. Commander Braktos learned resource distribution planning with So Young. Each lesson was taught with patience and kindness. The humans never made the aliens feel stupid or primitive. They simply shared knowledge like good teachers, helping their students grow at their own pace. How many students do you have now? Kethmore asked Taeho. About 2,000 from your Confederation, Taeho said, plus another 500 from the other species in our region. Everyone wants to learn. Through the observation window, Kethmore could see the busy traffic around Harmony Station. Ships from dozens of different species came and went, carrying goods, people, and knowledge between the stars. The sight still amazed him. Before we fought over scraps, he said quietly. Now we share abundance. Abundance makes sharing easier, Taeho agreed. When everyone has enough, no one needs to fight. Boram's voice came over the station's communication system. Commander Taeho, we're receiving a priority message from the Outer Rim. It's marked urgent. Taeho touched his communicator. Put it through to Conference Room 3. We'll take it there. He and Kethmore walked through the station's corridors. Harmony Station was beautiful, with gardens growing in every open space and streams of water flowing down the walls. It felt more like a park than a military facility. In the conference room, President Do-Yun was already waiting with Defense Minister So Young. They looked serious but not worried. What's the situation? Taeho asked. So Young activated the main screen. It showed a star map of the outer region of human space. Red warning markers flashed around 3 star systems. The hegemony of might has declared war on the Peaceful Traders Alliance, So Young explained. They're demanding surrender and threatening to destroy anyone who refuses. How big is this hegemony? Kethmore asked. About 30 species, So Young said. Very aggressive, very militaristic. They've been conquering their neighbors for the past 200 years. And the Traders Alliance? 12 species who just want to be left alone to conduct business, Do-Yun said. They're not fighters. The hegemony will destroy them easily. Taeho studied the star map. How long before the hegemony reaches our region? If they defeat the Traders Alliance, probably 50 years, So Young said. They'll need time to consolidate their new territory first. 50 years? Kethmore repeated. That's not very long. Long enough, Do-Yun said calmly. The question is whether we should help the Traders Alliance now, or wait for the hegemony to come to us. We should help now, Kethmore said immediately. The Traders Alliance doesn't deserve to be destroyed just because they're peaceful. Do-Yun smiled. I'm glad you feel that way. What do you suggest? Kethmore thought for a moment. 6 months ago, he would have suggested building a large fleet and fighting the hegemony directly, but he had learned better approaches since then. We offer the same thing you offered us, he said. Technology, resources, and teaching. Show them how to defend themselves without becoming aggressive. Excellent idea, So Young said. But the hegemony probably won't listen to reason the way your Confederation did. Then we teach them the same way you taught us, Kethmore said. Demonstrate our capabilities and give them a choice. Teho nodded. What kind of demonstration? Something impressive but harmless, Kethmore suggested. Show them that war is pointless when your opponents are too advanced to fight. Doyun looked pleased. You really have learned a lot in 6 months. 3 weeks later, the hegemony of Might fleet arrived at the edge of Traitors Alliance space. 30,000 ships carrying the warriors of 30 different species, all eager for conquest and glory. Supreme Commander Graxthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the peaceful worlds ahead of him. The Traitors Alliance had only a few hundred defensive ships. This would be the easiest conquest in hegemony history. Send the surrender demand, he ordered. Before his communications officer could respond, something strange happened. The space between the hegemony fleet and the traitor worlds began to shimmer. Suddenly, a massive space station appeared where there had been nothing before. Where did that come from? Graxthul demanded. Unknown, sir, his sensor officer replied. It just appeared. How big is it? Approximately 50 kilometers across, sir. It's larger than our entire flagship. A communication signal came from the station. When Graxthul activated the screen, he saw a human face smiling back at him. Greetings, Supreme Commander Graxthul, President Doyun said politely. My name is Doyun. I represent the Galactic Cooperative. I've never heard of any Galactic Cooperative, Graxthul growled. We're new, Doyun admitted. We just formed last month. 42 species working together for mutual benefit. 42 species. Graxthul was confused. Where are your ships? We don't need ships, Doyun explained. We have better ways to travel. To demonstrate, more space stations began appearing around the hegemony fleet. Not just a few, but hundreds of them surrounding the entire armada. This is impossible, Graxthul's tactical officer whispered. Not impossible, Doyun said, apparently able to hear their private conversations. Just advanced. Supreme Commander, we've come to make you an offer. What kind of offer? Graxthul asked suspiciously. The same offer we make to all our neighbors, Doyun said. Unlimited resources, advanced technology, and peaceful cooperation. All we ask in return is that you stop attacking other species. You want us to abandon our conquest? Graxthul laughed. The hegemony of Might does not surrender to anyone. We're not asking you to surrender, Doyun said patiently. We're asking you to grow. There are better ways to gain strength than conquering others. Show me, Graxthul challenged. One of the space stations moved closer to his flagship. As it approached, Graxthul could see that it was covered with gardens and beautiful buildings. It looked more like a floating paradise than a military base. This station was built in 6 hours, Doyun explained. We created it from asteroid debris using matter conversion technology. Would you like to see how it works? Before Graxthul could answer, his sensor officer reported something incredible. Sir, the station is creating ships. They're growing them out of empty space. Not empty space, Doyun corrected. We're converting cosmic dust and radiation into solid matter. It's quite efficient. As they watched, beautiful ships began appearing around the station. Not warships, but vessels designed for exploration, trade, and peaceful purposes. Each ship can carry 1,000 people in perfect comfort, Doyun continued. They're powered by stellar energy and can travel instantly between any 2 points in the galaxy. What's the catch? Graxthul asked. No catch, Doyun said. We'll teach this technology to any species that promises to use it for peaceful purposes. And if we refuse? Then you continue as you are, Doyun said with a shrug. But you won't be allowed to attack the Traitors Alliance or any other member of the cooperative. You think you can stop the entire hegemony of Might? Graxthul demanded. We don't think, Doyun said calmly. We know. To prove his point, something began happening to the hegemony fleet. Not damage or destruction, but something much more embarrassing. Every weapon on every ship simply stopped working. Your weapons are fine, Doyun assured the panicking warriors. We've just temporarily disconnected them from their power sources. We can reconnect them whenever you'd like to leave peacefully. Graxthul stared at his useless control panels. 30,000 ships completely helpless, how? He whispered. The same way we do everything else? Doyun said. Advanced technology, patient planning, and peaceful intentions. What do you want from us? Graxthul asked. We want you to join the cooperative, Doyun said. Learn to build instead of destroy. Create instead of conquer. Grow instead of fight. On Harmony Station, Kethmore watched the negotiation with interest. 6 months ago, he had been in Graxthul's position, confused and overwhelmed by humanity's capabilities. Will he accept? Teho asked. Eventually, Kethmore said. They all do once they understand what's being offered. And if they don't? Kethmore smiled. Then they sit in space with broken weapons until they change their minds. Humans are very patient. 3 hours later, Supreme,